are seeing that we have this ministry, as we have received mercy, we faint not, but have renounced the hidden things of dishonesty, not walking in practice, nor handling the word of deceitfully, but by manifestation of the truth, commending ourselves to every man's conscience in the sight of God. But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost, in whom the God of this world has blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of this glorious gospel of Christ, who is in the image of God, should shine unto them. For we preach not ourselves, but Christ Jesus the Lord. At verse 13, let's read. When Jesus came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, Whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? And they said, Some say that thou art John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. He said unto them, But whom say ye that I am? And Simon Peter answered and said, Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered and said unto him, Blessed art thou, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say unto thee, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Amen, the word of God. Just for a few moments, I want to share with you from this thought, the church on the rock. The church on the rock. There's a discussion going on about who Jesus is. This happened back then, and this same discussion is happening now about who Jesus is. Philippi is about 120 miles away from Jerusalem, and it's in a city where Jesus is not regarded and God is not regarded in a Christian environment. But everywhere you go, there are dynasties, there are statues of deities, and every now and then we have to come to the conclusion about who we believe that Jesus is. Because here will come the foundation of the church. In the New Testament, the church itself, the word is mentioned about 114 times. 90 of those times it is talking about the local church. But I believe in this setting, it's talking about the universal church. Who do you say that I, the Son of Man, am? You can't always go by popular opinion, because there's some things you just have to stand on what you know. They voted here, and some says, well, I think he's John the Baptist. Others say one of the Isaiah, and some say Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. It comes down to who do you say that I am? There are some who believe that he is a good man. And some of you even refer to him as the man upstairs. Some even say that he is the first created being. But who do you say that I am? And Peter answers and said, Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. In this world today, people will, most of the religions will vote on, they'll agree about Abraham. They'll agree about Isaac. They'll agree about Jacob. Even though they're good people, what really matters is, what do you say about Jesus? He is not the first created being. He's God. He is God in the flesh. You really need to know who God is. And I believe that somebody in this room really know who God is because of their relationship with him. I know that some people think that we just had an emotional high. If I want an emotional high, I'll get me a joint. And if I want to get a little higher than that, I'll go buy me some booze. But I know who Jesus is. You can't make me doubt him because I know too much about him. If he's dead, I want you to answer a few questions for me. Who woke me up this morning? Who gave me activities of my limbs? Who gave me a mind to think of his goodness? There's some things you can get from experience. There's some things you can get from a book. But when you add the book and the experience together, you can't make me doubt him. I'm sorry. We can disagree on a lot of things. But I got to tell you, I'll stand for who Jesus is. Jesus is the Son of the living God. And Simon Peter answered and said, Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered and said unto him, Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. There are some things that can only be understood with a spiritual mind. And I'm not going to tell you not to waste your time, but for people who don't want to really know who Jesus is, they'll try to make you believe that you don't know what you're talking about. That's why you need to have a working relationship with this word for yourself. Go to Matthew chapter 11. Matthew 11:25. At that time, Jesus answered and said, I thank thee, O Lord, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent, and hast revealed them unto babes. Even so, Father, for to it seemed good in thy sight. All things are delivered unto me of my Father, and no man knoweth the Son, but the Father. Neither knoweth any man the Father, save the Son, and he to whomsoever the Son will reveal him. You can't do it in a natural mind. You have to have a spiritual mind, because with the natural mind, serving God is foolishness. But to those of us who have the mind, we know it is the power of God unto salvation. Go back to Matthew 16. Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. There are some things you have to receive by faith. I can't see it. I can't feel it. But I believe. And the God that I serve has proven himself more than once. Has proven himself unto us more than once. And so when people try to, well, show it to me. I can only show you what's in this word, but there's some things you just have to experience for yourself. I can't tell you why some people holler, some are quiet, still have the same relationship with God. I can't tell you why some people run and how some people just jump up and down. Because we all don't do it the same way. But tell your neighbor, you ought to show some sign. You ought to show some kind of sign. These same folk that's sitting here with their arms crossed tomorrow will watch the Eagles or the Cowboys or the Steelers, and they will throw their hat, their wig, and their weave. But they come to church and act like God hasn't done anything. But I want you to know what the Lord did this morning. He made a touchdown for me this morning. You tell somebody, I thank him for waking me up. Not only did he wake me up, I heard somebody say in their prayer, I could have stayed in the bed, but somehow Some of you woke up more than once this morning. He woke you up and said, let's get up. You said, no, I need, just give me 5 more minutes. That turned into an hour. And your mind was trying to tell you, look, don't go. You're going to be late. Don't go. But something on the inside. And I know who it is. Jesus made me to want to be in his house. See, there's sometimes that you can't make it. And he understands that too. But there's sometimes you got to press your way. Because some folk will stay in the bed on Sunday but press their way on Monday. I know some of you say, now you done went to meddling. I don't care. I just love God. And I don't know how any child of God, that if you got activities of your limbs, don't want to be in somebody's fellowship to give God the praise that's due his name. Verse 18, and I say unto thee, thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. Well, this is where we come into a little difficulty. I'm not sure if you can build a whole church on a man who liked to cuss and cut. I'm not sure if I want to build all my hopes on somebody like that. But there is a rock. There are 2 words that are used in the Greek for rock or stone. If he's going to build it on humans, it'd have to be little stone. But if he's going to build it on Christ, it has to be the big rock. And then after he builds the church on the big rock, he called us to be little lively stone. In Peter, he calls us lively stone. Now, if you can say this, because everybody can't say this, because I don't want you to be lying in church. I don't want you to be lying in church. If I tell you to turn to somebody and tell them this, if you can't say it, just That's all right, you know. We won't know what you're talking about. We don't know whether it's right or wrong. But if you can say this, tell somebody, I'm stoned for Jesus. I'm stoned for Jesus. Because it's on this big rock that the church stands on. And I say unto thee that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. Go to the book of Ephesians, chapter 2. Ephesians chapter 2, beginning at verse 19. Now, therefore, ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of God, and are built upon the foundations of the apostles and prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone. That cornerstone is foundational, and everything else is built around the cornerstone, in whom all the building fitly framed together groweth unto a holy temple in the Lord, in whom ye also are built together for a habitation of God through the Spirit. God and Jesus, who is the chief cornerstone, each one of us are joined together to build his temple. And sometimes God has to use a hammer and a chisel on some of these stones in order for it to fit with the chief cornerstone. And all of us in here who are lively stones, we fit together next to each other. That's why I don't understand how some of you feel like you're not a part. God has placed you in the body for a reason, so that there can be strength in his building. Because if all of us join fitly together, there's nothing that can come through here that can destroy even the local church. Because we are together. Look down your row and see if you love everybody on that row. Now look in front of you. I know you only can see the back of the head, but you've been sitting there long enough, you know whose head it is. How many of you can really say, in all honesty, that God has blessed you to have the spirit where you learn how to love people? How many know that in spite of them sometimes, you still gotta love them? And how many of you realize that there's some people that's hard to love? But you can't do it on your own power. You got to you have to allow the love of God to love them through you. Because if you don't, you don't have a problem. And some of us got a problem. You got to love them in spite of themselves. You got to love them regardless of how they treat you. You ain't doing nothing if you only like the people that like you. But it proves who you are. And if Christ is living in you, when you can even love the folk that you know don't like you, and you can even love the folk that you know they've been scandalizing your name, that you can really still love the folk that some of them like smile in your face and turn around and do some other things behind your back, but God. And the reason why we can identify with that, because it wasn't that long ago we did it to somebody else. Well, did you see how quiet it got? As long as I'm talking about other folks, yeah. When I come down your row, you ain't saying nothing. But I say unto thee, thou art Peter, upon this rock I will build my, can y'all highlight my church? I will build my church. When I say my church, I'm not saying it like it belongs to me, but I identify it as my church. For those of you who believe that the church belongs to you and your family, I just want to share one thing with you. Don't die. Because it starts here in the pulpit and every position in the church. If you really believe that the church is based on you, don't die. Because if you die, I'm not sure what day you're going to die. But if it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, we still going to have church on Sunday. Because it's not based on not one individual in this room, but all of us together are lively stones to make. And I know when some of us should leave, people are going to cry. And we're going to get a piece of material. I think we may use white because black don't show up too much on these black pews, but we're going to use a white piece of material to show where you used to sit. And I think we're supposed to let it stay up for 30 days. But in the meanwhile, we're going to have your service. And we're going to have a great service. And we're going to talk about you too. Some people are going to tell the truth. Some people are going to lie. And then after the service, we're going to plant you wherever you want to go. Then we're going to come back to the church and have some funeral food. How many of you know what funeral food is? Chicken, mashed potatoes, string beans, a roll. And it's according to if you belong to one of the auxiliaries or ministries, because if you belong to one of the ministries, then we will ask that ministry to make dessert. If you don't belong to anything, you're going to have the dollar store cake. And then we're going to come back the next Sunday. And we're going to give God glory, honor, and praise because it's not built on not one person in this place. Upon this rock, I will build my church. 97 years ago, a band of saints came together and formed this friendship mission, later on Union Baptist Temple. And for 97 years, there are those who have been proclaiming that this church is built on Jesus Christ. And I'm here to tell you, it is the church on the rock. If it wasn't built on the rock, it would have fell, closed down a long time ago. When they had a pot-belly stove, and somebody would have to come Saturday and early Sunday morning and start the fire so that the church could be warm. Long time ago, if it had not been built on a rock, and I have to say that in 97 years, God has blessed this house to have never split. There are places churches are not birthed, but they split. And one band goes here and another band goes there and start something else. But we have to give God praise for those faithful members of the Foundation Church to realize that this church is built on a rock. And this is the church on the rock. And then it says, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Thank God for Union Baptist Temple. Gates represent authority. Those who stood at the gates of the city, and people would come there and they were judged at the gates because it represents authority. When Jesus died at Calvary, go to 1 Corinthians chapter 15. First Corinthians chapter 15. Verse 55. O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? The sting of death is sin, and the strength of sin is the law. But thanks be to God, which giveth us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. And if you don't have verse 58 highlighted, please do, because it tells us something. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. For as much as ye know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. Union, thank God for our 97 years. And if we last another 97, it's only because of Jesus Christ. Because we want this particular house to always remain on the rock. And let Jesus be the chief cornerstone. And help us to be the little lively stone. Because I believe that when his house is complete, he'll come back for his house. And until that time, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. This is the church that's on the rock. Tell two people, let's rock for Jesus. Let's rock for Jesus. And until he comes back, I want this church to always to remain on the rock, because we sing another song, all other ground is sink and sand. Let's bow.